So before we move into governance, it is important for you to understand and refresh your memory about the EPIC framework. Okay, why so? Because governance will happen once EPIC framework is used for implementing. Okay, so what we have gone up till now is using a strategy, devising a plan, and putting into execution through a structure that we discussed. Okay, where tip down played an important role. And the structure that was created, we call the heuristic structure, right? Because it grows with time. Okay, so that structure enables using EPIC framework, which is a framework which is again copywritten by us, and it stands for evaluation, preparation, implementation, and continuous improvement. Okay, so that's the acronym for EPIC. That entire framework at evaluation level and preparation and implementation, continuous improvement level, has a methodologies which is deployed to start using them. Okay, that is called RIOT. Why? Because it has again an acronym, right? So it's easy to remember. The rise up methodology is used during evaluation process, which is like typically a role of a TIB, right? And also when they're implementing, this is what they do. They go and analyze current systems, current people, current activities, so that they understand and evaluate at what juncture they are at, so what sort of changes is to be done. Preparation or the impact methodology, right? It's all about implementing, putting the marketing communications in place, writing the training related activities to be done, and the how to meet up with the resistance, or the continuous basis of coaching for the people so that they keep on adapting the systems accordingly, and then targeting the rest of the lot which are not. Okay, so impact goes through again the acronym, right? It stands for the acronym of implementing Marcom, pedagogy, anti-acceptance, coaching, and targeted, right? Same what is done for rise up. Now the previous rise up, right, it's not the rise up framework that is being adopted here. This rise up is all about putting the rise related training at every point of level, but yes, it has been inculcated as a behavioral item from that rise up of evaluation, right? Because at any point you are evaluating yourself to go to next level until you reach and become a monk. Okay, so that is the coexistence. But for a minute, let's understand what rise up is also, right? So results through introspecting systems by evaluating the use parameters. Okay, so what this means, right? I laid that out earlier and I repeat again, is that while evaluating the think in the box mode, right? You go about understanding the current systems, you analyze your current people, you understand the processes that are being used, and so on and so forth. And then you see what is the results that you can anticipate or what you want through introspecting these systems. Okay, and that also goes as part of top, that this is at the current level by thinking inside the box. Once you go outside the box, then it's the world, that is external world, where you start seeing that whether these results that we found out is good enough for that part of activity which is required to meet up with your competition, and also meets up with the objective that you're trying to do the change for or the transformation for. Okay, in the process you do an impact. That impact we just discussed, right? How you will manage the whole planned change activity in form of implementing that. Okay, followed by the opine, which is using one of the systems, right, of the way your structures are of the organization. Now, organization structure could be any, right? It's bureaucratic. It could be where there is a solo proprietor who manages the whole show, right? Typically, and has the right kind of potency, typically seen as a venture capitalist. Or is it where people adapt to each other after speaking because of cultural nuances, and every level gets a spoken hand compared to the previous one, and so on and so forth, right? Or you leave it for an external world to manage the implementation for you. Okay, so the opine consists of officialdom, participative, indoctrination, negotiated, or expert. Okay, each of these would mean as follows. The officialdom typically comes like a VC, right? Or suppose it's a ventured organization. A VC gets a top seat, right? And they typically call the shots. So irrespective of VC, whoever calls the shots, and that is the cultural system that makes the, the movement in the organization. It's called an official dump. So that's O of the opine. Then there's participative. This is when your group of partners are working together and that layer is making enablement for the others, or a group of leaders who come into play as, or maybe a board of members, if you will, or the second layer, which is, leaders which are running the show as separate CEOs, but are working in tandem with each other as a larger organization. They become participative with each other to ensure that change happens. Okay, so they become the stakeholders for respective ones. Indoctrination is the one where there's a bureaucratic structure, right? It flows as a system, one below the other, and then that goes as a system of downflow and upflow, which then comes into existence, and then they make that happen as a systemic approach of sorts, right? So that is being built into the structure accordingly. It follows by negotiated. This is where the first layer and second layer, or maybe third layer, are active, and then they negotiate with the next of the layers, right, where the masses or the workforces are, to ensure that the resistance is minimal for the change. Okay, and then they find an in-between route. So they might do some sort of system change and some sort of behavioral change, but not the holistically which they originally thought through. So that's a negotiated one. Okay, and probably you'll be surprised, it is one of the most relevant one that comes into existence. And then there's an expert, where you outsource the whole change management activity while the change implementation comes into existence. Okay, so that's the third one. And continuous improvement is what we're calling the tune, right, which is think, usher, nurture, and execute. This is the classic TDMA of the IT world, as mentioned earlier also. Think, do, plan, and analyze. So this is think, usher, right, which is all about planning it, and nurturing it. That means you enhance it to the point where it comes and starts bearing fruit, and then you start executing it. Okay, so this then becomes an activity which is continuous even after the change, and we discussed that in the previous one, where you create champions or the train the trainer approach, which continue the baton, and then even if the people who have implemented this has moved on, that is passed on as a legacy for continuously improving the change or the environment. So tape top and the whole SOM activity keeps on happening repeatedly in a cycle. Okay, that's the purpose of continuous improvement. Okay, because change is inevitable and keeps on happening every time. Hence the purpose, right? With this, we will jump now into the framework, so you will get a little better hand on what governance goes because of this EPIC framework as an implementation activity from the structure that we just discussed, or the larger 3M model. All right, I'll see you there in a minute.